Kansas City Chiefs are champions of Super Bowl 54.
These guys are hungry for more. They are eager to win another one. They're not satisfied with that one title. They want more. They want to build a dynasty here.
Throws it late for the end zone. Kelce wide open. Touchdown! Now being hit and sacked. Frank Clark got him.
Every conversation since the parade has been run it back and do it again.
Only 7 teams since 1978 have won 14 games a season after winning a Super Bowl. Now here we are in Week 16 of the Run It Back campaign, and the Chiefs can become the 8th. We are 1 hour from kickoff. You've waited all week for this very moment. It's finally here. It is time for football in Chiefs Kingdom. Let's do this. My name is Matt McMullen, joined as always by Shawn Barber. And Shawn, all this team does is break records. We know that, and they broke another one last week. For the first time since 1966, the Chiefs were perfect on the road.
So amazing, a perfect record on the road. It's so hard to keep your mindset and mentality focused on just winning when you're playing on the road. We talk about how do you check the box for a season? You talk about winning at home. You're talking about winning your division, winning your conference. Road wins now have been the next box to be checked, and we checked it 8-0, baby.
Yeah, very impressive stuff. I understand there aren't fans in a lot of these stadiums, and it's a bit of a different situation this year, but still very impressive to go on the road in 8 different buildings and win. And think of some of these teams that Chiefs beat on the road this year. Buffalo, Baltimore, New Orleans, Miami, Tampa Bay, Las Vegas. Good teams, a lot of playoff teams in there, so very impressive stuff for this team, winning all these games on the road. But now here we are back at Arrowhead for the first time in forever, it seems like. One home game since November 8th here at Arrowhead Stadium. Kind of crazy if you think about it. But now hopefully we're here for the foreseeable future.
Man, such a great way to close 2020 back here at home. One last time to sharpen our tools, go at it, and be ready to face a really tough opponent. I know people, when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons, because of their record, you might underestimate them. But the Atlanta Falcons is an up-and-coming team. They play and battle hard. I think they're the perfect team to close 2020 with when you're the Kansas City Chiefs.
We're going to talk about these Falcons here momentarily. Also talk about some playoff scenarios. With the victory here today, the Chiefs will lock up the top seed in the AFC. That would be huge news. We'll talk all about that here just in a moment. First, Shawn, let's go over the inactives in today's game. For the Chiefs, not too many surprises here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Damian Wilson. We knew both of those guys would not play in this one. They were both ruled out on Friday. Also, Anthony Hitchens at linebacker. He will not play. He's on that COVID list here today. But there is some good news. Tarik, he was questionable coming in with that hamstring injury, missed some time in practice earlier this week. He's active here today, so great news having Tarik out there. He could break a record today. We'll talk about that here in a moment. Also, Frank Clark, he had an illness this week and missed some time in practice, but he is active today as well, so great news on both sides of the ball there, Frank Clark and Tarik Hill. Then one guy, this guy wasn't questionable coming in or anything. We knew he would play, but it's worth mentioning. Mike Remmers is active here today after missing last week's game. He's been filling in for Mitchell Schwartz at right tackle, though without him last week, it meant Andrew Wiley had to bump out and play some right tackle, so a lot of shuffling along the offensive line. Great having Mike Remmers back this week.
Well, I know the Chiefs are excited about having the opportunity of having their offensive line as healthy as possible. And then you talked about the linebacker position. Having both Wilson and 53 out is going to put us in a position where Ben Neiman is going to be able to step up. We're going to ask Ben Neiman to step up. And then we have a rookie, number 50. He's a sideline to sideline. He's a great, impactful. He's a thumper. He's a guy that we really look forward to getting on the field. Can't wait for that guy to get on the field and have a chance to showcase his talents right here on Sunday.
Yeah, excited to see what Willie Gay can do here this afternoon. Now, looking at the Falcons, they're pretty beat up. Julio Jones, all-pro wide receiver, he will not play in this one with a hamstring injury, one of the best wide receivers in the game, so that's a big loss for them. Also, 2 big losses along the offensive line for the Falcons. Alex Mack, their starting center, he's not playing with a concussion, and James Carpenter with a groin injury, he's their starting left guard. He will not play either. Then defensively, Darqueze Dennard with a quad injury will not play at cornerback for this team, so this Falcons team is pretty beat up.
Yeah, without Julio Jones, you can Calvin Ridley, he's been a guy on a mission here lately. He's been on fire, so he's going to be somebody we have to focus on, and also Cage. Stopping their 2 young, upcoming wide receivers. And then when their offensive line, without Mack and Carpenter in there, they're going to be looking at Justin McCray and also Mac Hennessy. 2 young guys who've been forced to play a lot of time, and they've stepped up. I think that's where we're going to have to attack them. That's going to be the weakness. The underbelly of the Atlanta Falcons is going to be their offensive line. If we can take care of business at the line of scrimmage and really showcase and bring pressure right up the middle, the A gaps, the B gaps, right where the center and guard exchange happens, that'll be a scenario that I think we can bring a lot of success, have some pressure, and force Matt Ryan out of his comfort zone.
We'll dive into this matchup here in just a few minutes. But first, Shawn, it's that time of year, so let's talk a little playoffs here first. And, you know, the Chiefs last week, we talked about this. They had some business to take care of to get that top seed in the AFC, but that path is much simpler now because the Cincinnati Bengals upset the Pittsburgh Steelers earlier this week. What a crazy game that was. And now the scenario is quite simple for the Chiefs. Just win one more game, and they are the top seed in the AFC. And that's a very important thing for a couple of reasons here. It guarantees home field advantage throughout the playoffs. You never have to leave Kansas City until hopefully the Super Bowl, so that's huge. Then also it means there's only one bye in each conference this year for the first time. So if you're that 2 seed, which is right now the Buffalo Bills, you're going and you're having to host a game against probably an 11-win team at home in that first round. That's tough, you know, so it's really big for the Chiefs to lock up this top seed in the playoffs, either here today or they can win next week, or they could even lose out, and there's still a scenario where they can get it. But let's take care of business here today, lock up that top seed, because it really goes a long way in helping us get back to the Super Bowl.
I like when you talk about controlling your own destiny, being able to win and you're in, not only just being in, but also controlling that 1 seat. Only one bye for each conference. In the NFC, it probably is not going to even matter. You know, NFC, whoever's at 1 seat is just such a weak conference this year. You got a lot of teams, even with losing records, getting to the playoffs. That's not the case here in the AFC. Like you said, a lot of 11-win teams are going to be sprinkled throughout the playoffs. And the fact that we can win now, secure home field advantage throughout the playoffs, we know we're going to face great teams throughout the playoffs, but at least we can do is face them here at home. Carry that home field advantage all the way until it's time to go to the Super Bowl.
I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I get so excited thinking about this. If the Chiefs lock up home field advantage here today, it then means they are one home playoff game away from hosting a third consecutive AFC Championship game here at Arrowhead Stadium. Again, getting ahead of myself, but very exciting to think about in the context of this golden age of Chiefs football we're living in here right now. So you saw it a minute ago. Let's bring this back up. The current playoff picture in the AFC. The Chiefs, as we know, have that top seed right now, almost have that locked up for the regular season. The Bills are in the 2 seed right now. The Steelers are currently the 3 seed. Steelers really sliding right now. They're trying to catch their breath here. The Titans, they round out the division leaders at the moment in the 4 seed. Then the 3 wild cards this year are the Browns, Colts, and Dolphins, with the Baltimore Ravens trying to sneak in there as well. They're on the outside looking in at the moment, but very close. Remember, there's an additional wild card team this year, so it used to be just 2 wild card teams. Now we have a 7th team, and the Miami Dolphins are certainly benefiting from that at the moment. Now, if the season ended today, the way the math shakes out, the Chiefs would play the lowest remaining seed of 4, 5, 6, and 7. So the Titans, Browns, Colts, and Dolphins. And when I say lowest, it gets kind of confusing sometimes. It's the worst remaining seed left is who the Chiefs would play in the divisional round. So, Shawn, we talked about it last week, but when you see those teams, when you think about the playoff picture currently, how does this all play out?
Man, it's going to be a wild, wild west finish, a gunslinger finish all the way to the end. You see some games, and there's some things coming we're going to get into a lot later, but Baltimore pretty much is going to win out. We know they're going to win out, end up 11-5. So to make this playoff, you got to be 11-5 or better, and the Ravens might be 11-5 and get cut out of the picture. That's how competitive the AFC is this year. Obviously, Indianapolis is going to be fighting each week for their life. They go against Pittsburgh, and then later on in the season, they have a chance to do some things. Tennessee going against Green Bay is going to be a great opportunity for them to get at it with the Packers. It's so many games to watch here later on. I know we're going to get into those a little bit later, but when the playoffs end up unfolding, I think we see a little bit of jockeying for position. The Dolphins did an amazing job last night taking care of business with only 19 seconds at finding a way to finish off that game and beating the Raiders, putting the Raiders out to pasture, send them home fishing. Their season is over with. No playoff aspirations for Gruden and the Raiders. But the Dolphins kept their playoff hopes alive. That 7th seed is something they're holding on to, and they might have a chance of facing the Buffalo Bills, which might be in the same situation we are with almost nothing to play for Week 17. So they might have the red carpet kind of rolled out for them in Week 17 to finish off and capture that 7th seed. But like you said, a bunch of from seats 2, 3, all the way to seat 7. a lot of 11 win and better teams. This is going to be one of the greatest playoffs of NFL history.
Yeah, it's really incredible what happened in that Raiders game last night, isn't it? I mean, the first 55 minutes are pretty boring, and then all of a sudden the final 5 minutes, touchdown here, touchdown there. It was crazy, and you're right, it had huge playoff implications because the Raiders, it was already kind of a pipe dream they'd make the playoffs at that point, but they're officially eliminated now by losing that game, and the Dolphins hang on. They control their own destiny here, as you mentioned, where if they win next week against the Buffalo Bills, and who knows if the Bills will have their starters out there, they're in the playoffs, and Baltimore, meanwhile, a really good team. We know this. Lamar Jackson, 11-5, all those running backs they have, they need the Dolphins to lose in order to make the playoffs. So the Ravens need to win as well. They're playing the Giants here today. We'll see if they can keep pace with Miami here this afternoon. Colts at Steelers today. The Steelers really trying to get back on track here against a tough opponent in the Colts.
The Colts front seven, and really their front four, have been pretty much dominant all year. They've been able to get pressure with just 4 guys up front every week of the season, and with as much trouble as Pittsburgh has had lately protecting Ben Roethlisberger, allowing him the time to find his receivers, and his receivers are really struggling to get open. They're being challenged at the line of scrimmage. People are not fearing Ben Roethlisberger throwing the ball beyond 20 yards, and it's causing all the coverage to come tighten up from the line of scrimmage to the 20-yard mark. And so their receivers just having, Juju, obviously, he says he's not going to dance anymore on the logo at the beginning of the game, but I think Juju and his TikTok sensation, he's going to find a way to still find a way to show his followers how he can still dance before the game, just maybe not in midfield, or maybe wait until after the game to go to midfield. You know, with Juju, he's a handful, so he's going to find a way to do it. All in all, man, each game has got so many underlying, this playoff scenario, it can go so many different ways, it's like a butterfly effect, a ripple effect. Every game is going to affect some team in a different scenario. Their scenario of capturing the 1, 2, 3, 4 seed, being able to host the game in the playoffs, all of it determines on so many different factors, right? Common opponents, divisional records, conference records.
Strength of victory.
Try
to figure that one out.
So many different ways to try to figure out who you're going to play and when you're going to play them. It's almost you just want to wait and watch some great football all day long today.
Yeah, and there's a great game here tonight and a great game tomorrow. As you mentioned, Titans at Packers on Sunday Night Football. Titans trying to lock up the AFC South. Then the Bills at Patriots tomorrow. The Bills, the Patriots are out of the playoffs now, but the Bills would love to beat the Patriots. Of course, their big brother for so many years. And with a win, a Steelers loss, and a Titans loss, the Bills are the 2 seed. So we'll see how that plays out here tomorrow. Now, the beauty of this, as you said, is we can watch everything that's going on, and it's exciting to see how it all shuffles. But I love how it really doesn't affect us much at all because we took care of our business. We're 13-1, and if you're 13-1, you don't have to worry about what all these different teams are doing. And in fact, Shawn, something very impressive to me, if the Chiefs win here today, as I mentioned in the open, they will become just the 8th team since 1978, and that's when the 16-game schedule was implemented, to win 14 games the year after winning a Super Bowl.
It's so hard the year after. Everybody talks about the Super Bowl slump, how both teams, it's hard just to gear it back up for that type of run. It's so emotional. You put so much into the postseason, and then when it comes to actually playing the Super Bowl, you have a shortened offseason, and it's time to go back at it. So many teams are trying to pull your players from a Super Bowl winning team to join their squad, and somehow we were able to get 20 of 22 starters back on board to make another run at it. We talk about running it back and back, having a chance to go repeat as Super Bowl champions. But it starts with Coach Andy Reid. Each week he's been just preaching and telling these guys, take care of your business each and every week. And even when it was week 11 and the Pittsburgh Steelers were the 1 seed, undefeated, we knew we needed some help. We knew we needed some things to happen. We didn't worry about anybody else. Only thing we worried about is taking care of our own business. And now we sit above in the bird's eye seat, watching down on everybody else. We know we control our own fate. We can go out today and seize the moment, grab the number 1 seed, and be here in Arrowhead Stadium the rest of the entire season until Tampa Bay, which is the Super Bowl.
Love the hunger of this team to win a Super Bowl and come out here the next year and still have something left to prove. And you can tell that's the mantra of this group is we have something left to prove. If you're a nerd like me and you're curious, the other teams that did that won 14 games after winning a title, it's the 2015 Packers, the 2004 Patriots, the 1998 Broncos, the 1990 and 89 49ers, the 1986 Bears, and Washington in 1983. Would be very cool for the Chiefs to add their name to that list. A lot of great all-time teams there. Now, speaking of the playoffs, the Chiefs are offering an exclusive Run It Back pack promotion in celebration of this year's playoff run. These are very fun ways to support the team while watching from home. They include a flag, which we'll show you here in a minute, a very cool mask, a Run It Back mask, and a can cooler. All inside a fun throwback fanny pack. For a great cause, all net proceeds will benefit Cornerstones of Care, doing some great work here in our community. You can find these at your local Hy-Vee once the regular season ends, so January 4th. Look for these at your local Hy-Vee. Let's show them the flag here, Sean. You can go get this stuff at your local Hy-Vee January 4th. Very cool. Support your hometown Chiefs here as they try to run it back. So what do you think about this? Pretty cool, huh?
Hey, man, it speaks volumes. It's always easy to say running back, but to think about the type of how many man hours, how many practice sessions, how much film, how much went into our team being able to really take a slogan, take a statement, run it back, make it into a mindset, and then have all guys, every guy buy into that mentality. Nobody's worrying about personal records. Nobody's worrying about any personal accolades or achievements. It's all about our team being in a situation to repeat as Super Bowl champions. An amazing feat for the entire organization.
Certainly a lot of fun. We've been waiting for the playoffs all year long, and here we are. They're almost here, so can't wait to run it back and celebrate it with these awesome Run It Back packs. All right, so as you can see, warm-ups are underway here at Arrowhead Stadium, and our live looks are brought to you by Orworo. Orworo is the official heated apparel partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Heated gloves, vests, jackets, they have it all. Check them out at orworowear.com. That's O-R-O-R-O wear.com. All right, Sean, so we've talked a lot about the playoffs, all these other things going on. Let's talk a bit about our 13-win football team. And a big reason why they've had so much success this year is Patrick Mahomes, of course, our quarterback. And in my opinion, he is the NFL MVP this year, and here's why. First of all, his team is 13-1. That's the most important stat. If you lead your team to a 13-1 record, you are the MVP of the league, in my opinion. But also, individually, he leads the NFL in completed passes and passing yards. He is second in passer rating, third in passing touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions on the season, 3 of those against the Miami Dolphins. And in my opinion, this is where it helps split hairs here with Aaron Rodgers, who's the other horse in this race. Rodgers also had a multi-interception game this year, just one of them. He has 4 interceptions on the year, 2 in one game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 6. And in that game, Rodgers throws for 160 yards, no touchdowns, the 2 interceptions, and they lose 38-10. So when he wasn't playing well, he wasn't really able to get back on track. They lose that game by a big margin against a rival in the Buccaneers. Now, in Mahomes' 3-interception game, what happens? He bounces back, throws for 400 yards in that game, 2 touchdown passes, against the number 2 defense in football, by the way, and beats a playoff team at the moment. In my mind, it shows that when Mahomes is down, he's not out, and he finds ways to keep fighting and get this team a victory against a good football team. And to me, that's why he's MVP of the league.
Man, as we see the live looks, you talk about the swagger of one Pat Mahomes. He's an awesome leader. He's a motivator. He's an educator. He's teaching. He's learning. He's doing all these things, and he's still such a young man with so much growth. If there's a reason for the MVP, it's the entire season he's had. And when he's followed up the season, like you said, with 13 wins and counting, there's a possibility this man might end up 15-1. 15-1, and you talking about maybe not getting a Super Bowl MVP or not being the MVP of the regular season, I doubt it. That many wins always in the NFL, everybody understands the one thing that matters, stats can be looked at and can be crunched to mean anything, but when you talk about wins, that is what quarterbacks go out there on the field to do. Lead their team to victory. And no matter what the scenario has been, Pat Mahomes has always put his team in position to win a game, come back, do whatever's needed, place the ball in so many different locations, out so many different arm slots. He's definitely the most talented, most valuable player in the NFL this year, last year, and maybe in the future for years to come.
Big performance today, and a victory would certainly help that case. Now, one of Mahomes' favorite targets all year has, of course, been Travis Kelce. He's also up for an award this year. He could be the first tight end ever to win Offensive Player of the Year, and once again, here's why I think he deserves that. He leads the NFL in 10-yard catches and first down grabs. He's one of only 3 players since 2015 to have 95 catches, 1,300 receiving yards, and 10 touchdowns through only 14 games. Remarkable stuff. And he's also one of only 4 players since 1950 to record at least 8 catches in 7 consecutive games. So the guy is brilliant, he is consistent, and he's not one of these guys that has 200 yards in one game and then doesn't show up the next week. Every single week he's producing for this team.
Well, I think we look back, the number is 8, that magic number 8. 8 catches is what he's consistently doing each and every game. I think one game when he didn't have 8 is because he had 10. Exactly. So you go back about almost 8 games now, 8, 8, 8, 8. He is so consistent, his reliability as far as keeping the chains moving, keeping our offense on the field, like you said, producing first down after first down, and also a big threat in the red zone to score touchdowns. His hands, man, one of the best in the game. He's also been able to be so innovative on how creative he is of creating space. We talk about creating space, being open. He's one of the league leaders as creating that separation for receptions. So when we talk about Offensive Player of the Year, you match him up with the MVP. That is why the Kansas City Chiefs are where they are right now. Almost a flawless record right now, 13 wins on the way to 15 wins. I think Travis Kelce does have a great chance of winning Offensive Player of the Year this year in the NFL.
Could make some NFL history today, too. He is only 60 yards shy of the single-season all-time receiving yardage record by a tight end. That would certainly be pretty cool to see him accomplish that here today. And speaking of records, Tarik could also make some franchise history today. He needs just one more receiving touchdown to move past Dwayne Bowe for the most in a single season in Chiefs history, currently sitting at 15. What a season for him. And he also has 2 rushing touchdowns on the year, so that makes it 17 total touchdowns on the season for him. He is one of only 3 non-running backs since 2000 to score 17 or more touchdowns in a single season, joining Randy Moss and Rob Gronkowski. The guy is a touchdown machine.
Man, we talked about how special he was. I had the opportunity to actually look at some YouTube film of some of the greatest wide receivers in the NFL history. I watched Randy Moss. I watched Jerry Rice. I watched Terrell Owens. And this guy, Tarik Hill, is so explosive, just like those guys was, but he has down-the-field speed. He has quickness. He's elusive. He can return punts. He's also has that running back mentality. You see that quick explosion. He's a battler. He's a warrior. And guess what? He's our wide receiver number 1. So I think that he does go down as one of the best wide receivers, not only in Chiefs history, but at the end of his career in NFL history.
Now they're facing a Falcons defense today that's middle of the pack defensively in most categories. 18th ranked scoring defense, so allowing 25 points per game. One area they have struggled, though, is against the pass. They've allowed the second most passing yards in the NFL this year and the most passes of 25 or more yards. Particularly struggled against the deep ball, and that's what Patrick Mahomes does best. What do you make of this Falcons defense?
Like you said, they struggle against the deep ball because Neal is not really a middle field safety. He's a thudder. He's a hitter. He lays the wood. He likes to be up in the box doing things like that more so than patrolling 30, 40 yards deep. Pat Mahomes, he's just laser accurate. His accuracy down the field is second to none. And when the amount of receivers that we have, McCole Hardman, D-Rob, Watkins, all those guys can stress you vertically and horizontally. So there's no zone in the defense that Pat Mahomes can't touch. He can attack you in all 8 zones, and he's been doing that at a high level. So I think that's going to be a struggle that keeps on struggling when you talk about the Atlanta Falcons secondary. If they can't get pressure up front, Allen Bailey's coming back to Kansas City. The Incredible Hulk, he's hoping to make his name be heard early and often here. They got Grady Jackson on the defensive line, Grady Jarrett on the defensive line. He's been almost an all-pro guy, one of the bright spots for the Falcons defense. And then Deion Jones. Deion Jones is a linebacker that has always caught my eye, sideline to sideline. He looks like an older version of Willie Gay because he can hit, he can strike, but he also can cover. So if there's an opportunity to get one-on-one with Kelce, with Jones, I think the matchup is still us. Kelce is still unguardable, but Jones is going to make it a lot more difficult than most linebackers.
Now, they have had some success at times this year, thinking about when they held Vegas to 6 points at one point this season. That was impressive. Also held New Orleans to only 21 points earlier this month. So they have some playmakers on this team, as you mentioned. That deep passing game certainly, though, will be something to watch throughout this one. All right, now flipping things over and looking at the Falcons' offense, it all begins with Matt Ryan. It's been that way since 2008. At 35 years old, he's still playing pretty good quarterback for this team. And for more on Ryan, I caught up with Joe Thomas of NFL Network earlier this week. All right, I'm joined now by Joe Thomas of NFL Network. And Joe, I want to ask you about Matt Ryan, 35 years old, but doing his thing here for the Atlanta Falcons. What do you make of Ryan at this point in his career?
Yeah, he's still playing really good football. He's not very mobile, and he never really was throughout his career, which I think limits him a little bit with today's modern offenses playing a big emphasis on a quarterback that can extend plays, that can get outside the pocket, that can convert third downs with their legs. But Matt Ryan's still got a ton of weapons that he throws to. He's a very accurate passer. He makes great decisions, and he has not been the reason why the Falcons have struggled so much this season.
You mentioned the weapons on this team, guys like Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones when he's healthy, lots of weapons for Matt Ryan on this offense. But you also mentioned it, not very mobile. He struggled this season when under pressure. This year. He's completing only half his passes and 6 interceptions on the season. Also sacked 36 times this season, so been under pressure quite a bit. What are you expecting from this Chiefs defense against Ryan on Sunday?
Well, I think the big area of weakness for the Falcons is when they get into that red zone. Matt Ryan, not a mobile quarterback. He can't really extend plays. You see throughout the NFL, if you're able to get down to the red zone and as a quarterback extend plays and find guys in the end zone in those holes in the zone coverage, or if you're just able to extend plays, it's hard to play man coverage for a long time when the quarterback gets outside the pocket. Matt Ryan does not have that in his back pocket, so I would expect a big advantage there for the Chiefs defense. And really overall, just about everything in this game is leaning towards the Chiefs.
Looking forward to it on Sunday. Joe, awesome stuff, man. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, great stuff there from Joe Thomas, one of the best offensive tackles in NFL history, now a terrific analyst for NFL Network, and also a really nice guy. Really enjoyed getting to know Joe Thomas, really appreciate his time. And Shawn, I want to keep this conversation going about Matt Ryan with you. What do you make of Ryan at this point in his career, and how can the Chiefs slow him down here today?
Man, an aging veteran, but he holds on to the ball a little bit too long for my liking. They call him Matty Ice because he has ice water in his veins, right? He never gets pressured. Unfortunately, with the young offensive line, they've allowed some leaks. And with those leaks, it's been getting pressure in his face. He's been sacked way too many times for a guy's age. And because he's a dome quarterback, the elements always affect him, right? It's a little bit of a chill, the wind, those things he never has to face back at home in Atlanta in that dome. And so not having that comfort of being in the zone or being in the dome, I think will get him out of his zone, and he'll have some trouble completing passes here today at Arrowhead.
Now, as I mentioned with Joe, he does have some weapons on this offense, notably Calvin Ridley, one of the top young pass catchers in all of football. He has 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns on the year, at least 50 yards in 12 of the Falcons' 13 games, and also 7 100-yard games for Calvin Ridley this season. He's had a really, really nice year. I asked Tyrann Mathieu about him earlier this week, actually. He compared him to OBJ. So this kid is talented.
He's talented, but what I've seen every time I've watched him week in and week out, he's always battled a foot injury or a leg injury. He's such a thin-framed guy. I think when you reroute him, you get it in front of him, you really got to get your hands on him early in routes. Can't let him free release into your secondary. And then when you have a chance to really put a hit on him, lay it down, put a hit on him, make him know that you're around him, lay that wood on him. I think that he's a little bit ginger, he's a little bit tender-footed, so just do what you got to do defensively to make his game as a physical as game as possible.
Another guy is Russell Gage. You mentioned him a while back. He's been pretty solid for this team as well. 700 receiving yards on the year, 50 receiving yards in 4 of his last 5 games. So Matt Ryan's been finding Russell Gage quite a bit. This running game has struggled overall this season for Atlanta. They add Todd Gurley in the offseason thinking they can kind of jolt that. But overall, they're averaging less than 4 yards a carry. Gurley has 9 touchdowns on the ground. But what do you make of this Falcons rushing attack?
Man, I think Gurley has been put to a reserve role just as short yardage and in the goal line package. Ito Smith's going to be the guy, I think, that the head coach said he's going to feature him in the running game. So look for Ito Smith to be their leading carrier as far as rushing the ball. And Gurley is a guy who's he's aged out. He's a little bit older in this stage of his career, and he's only good for about 10 or 12 carries a game now.
Makes me feel old if Todd Gurley is old. I remember watching Todd Gurley in college. But absolutely. And Shawn, what this really is for me is it's an opportunity for this defense to finish the season strong. I know we have 2 weeks to go here, but carrying this momentum into the playoffs. The defense has played pretty well over the last several weeks. And last year, this is when things really fired up for this team defensively, and they carried that into the postseason, and we saw that. This is an opportunity for this defense to start that, keep that going here this afternoon.
Man, the defense has to do one thing. They have to look into the camera, and they have to show every other team with playoff aspirations what it means to face the Kansas City Chiefs defense. We play together as a unit. We hunt as a pack, 1 of 11. Everybody does their job. They're detailed. They communicate. They trust one another. They play with the right leverage, the mentality, and the mindset to get it done. It doesn't matter if it's the rushing game or the passing game. You come into Arrowhead, you got to face the landlord, you got to face Chris Jones, and you got to face Frank the Shark Clark, and you got to face those guys each and every down. So that's what our defense is going to put on film. So everybody, when you come to Arrowhead, what exactly you're in store for.
Love the sound of that. That'll just about do it for us. But Chiefs Kingdom, I have one quick request for you. When you're watching Travis Kelce set a record here today, pull out your phone, go on Twitter, and use this hashtag WPMOY challenge, then a space, Kelce. And what that does is that will vote for him for the Walter Payton Man of the Year social media challenge. He's obviously our nominee this year for that very prestigious award. And by tweeting that hashtag, you will put him in the running to win $25,000 that he will use for his foundation here in Kansas City. Amazing, amazing stuff he's doing here in this community. And just by using that hashtag, or if you see someone else tweet it, you can retweet it. That counts as well. What that does is that will give him an opportunity to do even more good for our community. So I encourage everyone to use that hashtag today, tomorrow, the next day. It goes into early January. You can help the Chiefs with that. So that hashtag, one more time, is hashtag WPMOY challenge, then a space, Kelce, and you are voting for Travis Kelce to win that social media challenge and do some good here in our community. All right, everybody, for Shawn Barber, my name is Matt McMullen. Enjoy the game. We'll see you afterwards.